Jennifer,
Hello,
how are you?
Richard. I am great. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm broadcasting live from Mars,
I love it. My hometown.
your hometown. Over my shoulder, I have a photograph from the red planet. Why
Yes.
not? Since we travel around the universe so easily,
Right.
willy-nilly, might as
Right.
well.
I love that.
Very good. So let's see. We got some emails from angry Brits who chastised me for being rude to Doris Stokes, who I'd never heard of. Still don't know who she is.
And tell them sorry, you guys.
Not you. Not you. You were polite. It was
I
me.
know.
I was like,
I was so overwhelmed because she's the best medium. Like she's one of the best mediums in the world. Or was.
lovely. I guess, well, Luana's probably been waiting for us to show up. Probably. We'll give her that. So
Probably.
Luana, our friend on the flip side, who
She just
holds
showed me trying to getting me like out of the house to get here.
hurrying to get here. Well, Lou, I have a couple of things that I thought we could chat about.
Okay.
Same thing as before when, stuff gets popped into my head. Mostly are about process. But Lou, is there somebody on your guest list that is chomping at the bit, as they say?
She's just showing me you, my mind's eye.
All right. Well, two things. I think this is what she's brought to my attention a couple of days ago, and then again last night. And for people tuning in, Jennifer and I have been doing this for 6 years. We don't plan anything, and a couple of days beforehand, while I'm sleeping, yeah, there we go, blank chart. While I'm sleeping, I might see my friend Luana. I might not. I might see somebody I don't know. I've heard a voice. I'm hearing voices, but I've heard people ask me to elicit Jennifer's help in chatting with them, and I always say, well, get on Luana's list. If you can get on her list, then you can
Right.
chat with us. So a couple of nights ago, I had a dream about Luana. And does she want me to talk about that dream or what it meant to me?
What it meant to you. And it almost was like on a subconscious level.
Okay, it could be. And that's why the dream is a little bit unusual. And go ahead.
I always say it's wonky when you're
Okay, it was a little wonky. I was aware that I was having a dialectical conversation with somebody, and I don't know who it was, but a dialectical meaning talking about how dreams work or talking about how people communicate from over there to here.
Got it.
In this case, it was a visual of, let's say, a street. Could have been a city, I'm not really sure. But it was people walking one way and people walking this way. And I was walking with someone who I don't recall who that was. I know that they were shorter because
Okay.
I have the impression of looking down. But I passed Luana as she was walking this way. And I recognized her, and there was a lot of people going in one direction. And I turned and shouted her name. Like, oh, she must not have seen me. And she turned around and looked at me, clear as a bell, didn't recognize me. And then I leaned down to the person I was with and said, would you explain to her, like, our connection?
Right.
But go ahead.
Just so you know, the person that you're like going down to, I feel like is your guide.
Okay, so it's, yeah.
Not that it matters, but go ahead.
But that's possible. But the point being, she didn't recognize me. And so, look, a dream is a dream. Was it the pepperoni pizza or was it, something more than that? Then you think, was this a metaphor? And then I thought, is it possible that I was tapping into a time when she was on the planet and we didn't know each other? Was I tapping into a time in an alternate universe, parallel universe, something like that, where she's not aware of me at all. It was just an unusual construct because I got the impression that she thought I was a fan, somebody who knew her acting career. And I had yelled at her, to stop her, but she had no idea who I was.
Okay.
But let's just add, so Lou, what was that about? And if it's possible, I mean, it could have just been a dream. Could have been just something, like I concocted.
It was a time that you guys did not know each other.
So prior to our knowing each other, okay, because we
prior
met.
to you knowing each other, and then it felt like almost a deja vu. So then you know each other, and then you're going back in time, seeing where you guys were.
So, but let me clarify. It was in this lifetime? So in other words, we met at USC at a certain time period. She was in her late 30s, and I was whatever age I was. So you're saying it was prior to that?
Yes.
Is that correct? It's interesting. I asked our mutual friend Robert what he thought of that, and he said the exact same thing.
Okay, and so, hold on. Interesting. So it was brought to my awareness that there's a possibility, and this is what I'm talking to them about, it's a possibility that what if in our dream state you actually, it was her, but what if it was actually somebody else that's part of her soul group that you recognized, that showed up in the form of her? So give me a second with this. You're like, "Meh."
Well, only because I was pretty clear that it was her. And that's why I used her name. You see, she passed me by, and I used her name to call her out. And then she turned at the sound of her name, but did not recognize the person who was talking to her.
You were correct, but I do feel like in our dream state, though, you were correct with what happened in your dream.
Yeah.
I think there's a bigger thing that she's trying to show me as well.
Okay.
That in our dream state, so just so you know, in our dream state for the audience, nobody in your dreams ever talks with their mouths open. They project their thoughts, and that happens a lot of times. So she might have turned around. You might have thought she didn't recognize me, but you might not have been picking up her projections, her thoughts, because nobody goes like this. But you were correct, though. I'm letting you know you were
well,
correct.
what makes it an unusual dialectical thing, and this has to do with our conversations about process. Because, of course, as we've talked about before, a portion of our conscious energy is always back home. And Luana and I, reportedly, over the years that I've been doing this research, knew each other in previous lifetimes. So we've known each other as, let's say, the higher selves for a while.
Right.
But what I was accessing was the Luana who was an actress walking down the street. Her hair color was a little different than when I met her. That's what also makes it a little different. But for me to just sort of shout out her name. Now you think about it, like this construction of a dream, you're seeing somebody that you know, and then you shout their name and they turn around, they don't know you. And is it that because you've constructed a moment outside of time, or is the whole construction of this dream to get us to talk about this, about how portion of our energy is back home and that we exist here and we march through life like marching down the block, and we experience life without thinking, oh, I might have known this person in a previous lifetime, or I feel like I know them. In other words, we're always connecting the dots. And in this instance, she showed me an example of unconnected dots, just living your life, going through life. It's an unusual, what can I say? It also made me feel, though, it was a weird feeling of like, she's trying to tell me something, like our conversation is over. So I had that emotional reaction to it. Like, we've been talking about like all this stuff. I'm busy now.
Ooh.
So let's ask her.
No. She's like,
okay.
No.
Well, whatever. She's
like, it was the reverse. It was to get you to talk about it, not to say, oh, we're done. Okay, no more class. This is
class is dismissed.
This is our last episode, everybody.
Well, people on Quora, they'll ask me questions about stuff, and I try to answer as much as I can. But I also say, there will come a time where I will not be available to answer these questions. Everybody has to work on their own. Jennifer and I will not always be doing a podcast. We will on the flip side. Yeah, that's right, on the flip side. Other people can tune in. Okay,
now I just made it explicit. Thank you very much.
So there is another aspect, the second part to this. So one of Luana's friends, somebody we haven't chatted with, somebody who's still on the planet, appeared in a dream last night. And I've never had a dream about this person ever. I know this person pretty well. Go ahead.
Can I say first name Jack?
No, it's not. I know Jack. I met Jack a few times. I've spoken to Jack a few times. This is a guy that I know, as well as I've met, known her friend Jack Nicholson. We know him. But this is a film person, yes. This is not an actor. This is somebody who's, I'll just say he's a director.
Okay.
Very close friend of hers. And we had a conversation last night in another construct, whatever that was, where it was like a debate. And he was chastising. It's not exactly the right term, but he was kind of saying, that just what Doris kind of said. Doris came in and she was like, you're making it sound so easy that anybody can talk to their higher self. And, it's just not that easy. And it's also maybe not even that important for people to know or be aware of that, because they're here on the planet acting out the roles they're supposed to act. And
right.
You start telling them, look, you're an actor, stop taking it so seriously. They stop taking it seriously. They don't learn the lessons. But this was I can only say, a dialectical argument. And at some point, I'm listening, thinking, well, where are we going with this? Because you have your really strong opinion about how this works. And I said, well, let me demonstrate it to you. And then I brought forth, in my mind's eye, someone this person knows who's no longer on the planet. Okay. But I didn't stick around for the conversation. So I don't know what they said. It's like my consciousness shut down. I have no idea what their conversation was. And then sometime later, I had the impression this person was saying to me, thank you. So I demonstrated that we can access our loved ones on the flip side. And once you do that, once you have the experience of doing that, as you and I have discussed this, I mean, today somebody wrote to me and said, you and Jennifer talked about, I think there's a workbook in one of your books where you give the process, and I'd really like to try that out. And I've had quite a few people on Quora reach out and say it worked. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Okay. So before you go to what I would do, and a lot of times when you get visitations, let's call them visitations. I've had, a couple of visitations from my dad that were just powerful, that just still choke me up about seeing him. And you'll know when you have a visitation. But before you go to bed, or are we talking about dream states or just in general?
Right. Just in general, or dream states, fine.
I guess
whatever.
It works both ways. So before you go to bed, ask to see this person. Because as you're talking, I'm being shown all the different things that happen with it. So like when you see somebody from the other side, the reason why they can visit you is because your resistance is not up. Because what happens if like, for instance, part of one of my dreams that my dad, we were dancing, and part of it, when I realized, I'm like, Dad, you're not alive. How could this be happening? I'm like, don't go. And then that's what happens is once our mind, even in our dream state, comes to a conclusion, it still overrules anything that's real. And so by me saying that, he slipped away, and I just started bawling my eyes out, and it woke me up, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. And it was so powerful, though. I was able to feel him and hold him, and just, he was letting me know that everything's going to be okay and how much he loved me. And so, but our conscious mind is still pretty powerful in our dream state. But back to your question, how you're able to do it, just the quick steps on how to connect is just hold a picture or have their picture next to you before you go to bed, or hold on to something that they gave you. Like I have a ring that, I always wear it, especially when I work, because it's just, I feel like it's my connection to the other side. A piece of jewelry. You don't technically have to have anything, but it makes your conscious mind more aware of it, right?
Almost like dialing in a radio, or the ham radio operators. They used to have a little tiny dial that helped you to tune it in perfectly, so you could really clearly. And having that object is like a frequency, or holding on to a frequency, I guess.
Right, and I'll also ask them to give them time to show up. Don't demand them. Like whenever I did an event last night.
Oh.
And it's great because I love it. It's a wine and spirits event, 5 people at a time, spacing, everything COVID friendly. And I love it. I love what comes through. But all day long, I'm asking Luana and the class and my dad to be there to help. And every time it feels like it gets better and better. But I give them time from the moment I wake up in the morning to say, hey, will you guys help me out? And I believe that they help me out. I trust that fact that they're there.
And so it's almost like saying, if you really want to talk to somebody who's no longer on the planet, a loved one, give them that space. So first you got to allow that it's possible, and then you start giving them the space. And it might be through a photograph, it might be through a memory, it might be looking through their closet, it might be looking through some other stuff. You're allowing that space. And then once, let's say, if you imagine or pretend that they're across from you and you're holding their hand, let's say, that might be a way to go that helps you connect. Don't ask them to answer questions like, what are the lottery numbers? But ask them, you can ask them to do just what Jennifer did. Don't shake your head no, or yes, or shrug. Those are responses. So you ask, is this you? And if they go, you have a response, you see? That's a response. And so they don't have to channel themselves to make a voice be heard. They can give you a visual image.
They can give you a visual. They can give you a feeling. Everyone has a different way of connecting to the other side. Start from your heart space, your heart frequency. Love is the highest frequency there is. Love is by far. And when you're grieving, it's challenging to have that, love without crying or love without feeling bad. You know what I'm saying? But just send out your emotions of like, I want to talk to you. And it'll come to you. Like another thing to look for, like if you get the chills, that's them coming into your energy field. If your heart starts racing, that's them. And ask, who's here? I always do that when I get the chills.
And then the other portion that we kind of talk about is the idea of asking them a question that you can't know the answer to. So it can't be coming from your subconscious, like who was there to greet you when you crossed over. And you'll likely get an image.
So I just asked my dad that in my mind. When you were as you were saying, who was there to greet you? I've never really asked my dad.
Really?
We've never.
So who was there to greet him?
His parents showed up right away. That was so cool.
And for the audience,
and I was not thinking that.
Well, for the audience, the idea is not to judge that, because a lot of times you go through the mental hoops of like, oh, he didn't like, or they didn't like each other. Why would his mother show up? You just try not to argue with yourself over it. And then you go to the next question. So your parents were there. I always ask, was that a happy reunion? Because you don't know. And sometimes it's problematic. And sometimes Bill Paxton said to us, yeah, it was problematic because I saw my dad and that meant I must not be on the planet anymore.
Right. My dad, when he showed me looking back at all of us, and then he showed me a song that came on, which I forgot about, which was Families Could Be Together Forever. It got stuck on that song. on the TV. Like we had a radio play, probably BYU for all I know. But that song, Families Are Together Forever, got stuck when he passed. They're together forever.
You mean literally, wherever he was?
Literally got where he passed away with us in the room together with the family. And that song came on and never left.
Well, let's ask Jim. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you can do. So, Jim.
But I forgot it. But again, I didn't remember that until he showed me it in my head.
But let's ask him, because Jim's outside of town. Jim, how did that record get stuck? Who did that?
Oh, my grandparents.
So just for the audience's perception, how does one get that to happen? Do they go, so you work backwards in time? You got to get the thing to skip at a certain time.
And it was TV. So it was on the TV with the words, families can be together forever. And it was stuck right there.
Oh, it just froze.
Froze. And the music froze. It was
and if we can, just because we like to talk about process, if your grandparents don't mind, maybe they can come forward and explain to us, how do you get an image to stick?
Just by being there waiting for them. Their energy made it stick.
Oh, I see. So it's like almost like the signal becomes so strong that everything kind of freezes. I know when Luana passed away, her clocks every clock in her house froze at 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And the cats sort of like watched her fly around the room. But I was looking at the clock, and the clock froze. And then everyone went around the house, and every clock in her home froze at that time. It's like, those I forget what it's called, but it's a neutron kind of a weapon that suddenly sends out a shock wave. And
they just showed me again, like, remember, how like a lot of times when I hear somebody crashing in, like
that high pitch.
That happened as well when my dad was, passing away. I wasn't paying attention to it as much, but they showed it to me, and that's what the frequency, like that shock wave, just like you said.
So Jim, if you don't mind, I know this is a difficult topic, but I had the experience the day before Luana passed away, where I had a vision or a dream that I was in a volcano and moving up towards the light. And when I got to the top of the volcano, it was like channels were changing. At the very top, there was like the channel that was in the volcano, and then there was the channel which was some other channel. And I could, like the old televisions used to turn the channel between you, whatever. And I had that weird between channel experience. Is that what's happening? It's like the energy is shifting from one channel to the next?
So how would you put it in words? It's all encompassing, like it happens all at once. It happens all at once. So it's like they're standing still, but everything's going a million miles an hour around you. But it makes sense. I can't.
Wow. So I understand, and because we have CGI.
And for instance, like, did you see Jesus? He felt the love of what you would call Jesus. Like he felt
that unconditional love that people describe quite often.
Unconditional love, and that knowing that you're in the right place.
My father, the day he passed, and this was a long, 2004, way before I did any of this research, but that night I had the impression of him waking me up and his arm on my shoulder and him saying, "I'm experiencing indescribable joy." 2 words I had never heard him put together. But subsequently, I've had so many people, either near-death experiencers or people just not under hypnosis, talking about the experience of feeling some kind of a epiphany that is unconditional love, which indescribable joy. They're kind of in the ballpark of each other. But that idea, so Jim, this experience of unconditional love, of indescribable joy, is that the natural state of being on the flip side?
It's the feeling that you get when you know that you're a light being. I don't know why I guess a light being, like you're in spirit. So you're a spiritual, you're infinite.
Let's not judge it. A light being. And we are all light beings, correct?
Yes.
So it's the experience of like getting out of the pool and realizing we're outside the pool.
He just showed me getting out of your costume.
Getting out of your costume and leaving it on stage. Leaving all those props and costumes and everything else on stage.
He's laughing at his bad heart.
You leave it all. It's all there. I mean, people ask me about mental issues. If you consider the brain part of your costume, that gets left there as well. Your mind goes on, but the parts that are left.
Yeah. My dad used to say, he's like, you can only take your knowledge with you. So
that's what they say, yeah. You can't take anything else with you but your knowledge. Well put, sir.
That comes along with the feelings associated with love. Did you
Very
love
good. Very good. So Luana, Jim, thank you. I'm just going to go back to you for a second, Lou, because I know you got the clipboard. And we only have Jennifer for a short amount of time today. But let's ask Lou, is there anybody on your clipboard that needs to come forward or that we need to speak to?
Okay. Hold on. They said that you had a list.
That's fine. I probably do over there. But right now, I don't. In front of me, I've got, a couple of names and stuff we talked about.
Okay. Hold on.
But Lou, help me out there. Do we have a list together? Did we agree on who should come forward, or?
I just keep they keep showing me you in my head, and that's why I said that you have the list.
Well, let's interview me. How's that? Well,
they're saying that the process is more important right now.
Okay, but here's my point. A lot of times people, they give you things, and then we try to figure out what were they talking about? We try to unpack it. So let's just allow that they want to talk to me. Okay? But they're not talking about me. They're talking about that guy. Is that correct, Lou? Are you talking about the higher self me? Or are you talking about me?
You.
Me. Okay. All right, so back to process. Just to finish what we were talking about, which is,
and it's your dad. Hold on.
Oh, and my dad. Okay, that's pretty specific.
I guess we're having. It's interesting.
The dad. The Father's Day. Just kidding.
I know, it's kind of funny because it is we're recording this on April Fool's Day. By the way, I woke up so happy this morning because it was the first day the kids went back to school. My two kids. And it was the first time I didn't have to take them because my daughter drives. So they were able to go. I felt like I won the lottery. I'm like, Freddie, tell me that this isn't going to come. Like, they're not joking at school. Like, we're going to say, we were just kidding. Your kids aren't going back to school. Anyway.
Semi-retired.
Give me your father's
Charlie.
name.
My dad's first name is Charlie. I mean, the Italian name is Romeo, but people know him as Charlie.
Okay.
He's an architect.
I know that.
Okay, Dad, what's up, bro? What's happening? Pops.
Did you ever ask him who he met?
Probably not, because I've always kept this part of the work.
He just said, you've never asked me who greeted me.
All right, so Dad, who greeted you when you crossed over?
Does she have a family dog?
Sure.
Brisket.
Well, let's ask him. Was it Sam? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, very good. For people tuning in, that's mind bending. But in Architecture of the Afterlife and the upcoming film, which will be out the end of April, Hacking the Afterlife, there's a section where Steph Arnold, who had a near-death experience, she's talking to one of her council members, and I asked the council member, have you ever heard of my research or me talking to people on councils? And she said, yeah, I'm very familiar with your work through your dog. And I went, what? Excuse me? And she said, I don't know. I'm getting a German Shepherd. He was part miniature collie, part German Shepherd. And you and I had just spoken to Sam. Sam had just given me details about his passing. I did not know, but I later discovered to be true because I called my brother and said, hey, what happened, after, because I was out of the country. So this is mind-bending, but Sam, who died 40 years ago, was there to greet my father when he crossed over. And what was that like, Dad, when you met up with Sam?
He said Sam was more evolved than most humans.
Interesting. How so?
A lot of animals are. They don't have judgment. They have fear, but they have no judgment, and they don't have fear over there, but they have no judgment, and they love unconditionally.
And so what was that like for you, seeing Sam?
Soft landing.
Gave you a soft landing.
Yeah.
I know that Jennifer and I had asked you once what you were doing over there, and you had said you were golfing. And your golf partner was an African American that we both knew, a guy named Kelly. Was that accurate? Or, I mean, I'm sure it was accurate for
Yeah.
And are you still golfing with Kelly, or
No.
what's going? No.
What? They're building things. I know your dad's an architect, but like at first I thought they were playing tennis. And he goes, no, we're building things.
So what kind of things are you building, Dad?
It feels like coliseums. Like,
And are they? But let me ask you: are they structures for people to do things in, participate in? Are they like council chambers, places like that?
they're used for everything in the afterlife. Because I'm like, is it for entertainment? Is it for teaching? And he says it's for everything.
For everything. Are you helping others with your acumen, your ability to construct things, or does everybody participate together?
I'm helping.
Are any of the other architects friends of yours from this lifetime, or are they architects from other lifetimes?
You just showed me Bernini.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you know who Bernini is, Jennifer? Consciously? I do.
I felt like he was an artist. Who did the body of David, or who did the statue of David? Sorry.
Michelangelo. But Bernini was also an architect,
Right. I felt Bernini, but he showed me Michelangelo. He was showing me just where a place that I've been.
And Michelangelo as well, also an architect. Also an architect, not only a sculptor, as many artists were, but without freaking people out like, oh, your dad's working with Michelangelo. Bernini. The idea is that these are people that are outside of time, so it's not a huge thing to run into them, even though they lived 500 years ago. And what was that like to run into Michelangelo for you?
It was Bernini, but yeah, we all take turns working.
Okay, very good. And Jennifer, are you consciously aware of anything Bernini's constructed or built? The Vatican.
Of course.
And Michelangelo. Michelangelo did the roof, and Bernini did the baldacchino that's in the heart of it.
Huh.
On his design.
I knew
well, you know, I've spent some time in Rome.
Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapel.
Sistine Chapel, correct. And also the roof, the cupola. So, Dad, I got a quick question for you about a couple of small events. One was our daughter seeing you in our kitchen just after you passed.
Yeah. Hold on. He wanted her to know that for a couple of things, that he was okay, and that she would be able to reflect on this later, saying, I did see my grandfather.
Well, it was unusual because she was about, I think, 3. And she came running into the living room and she said, Grandpa's here. And I wanted to jump out of my chair, but I didn't. And I said, oh, what's he doing here? She said, he came to see the baby. And her brother had just been born. And then I said, so does he have anything he wants to say? And the quote was, he says, I love you very much. And you guys need a bigger house. Because all the toys and all that stuff everywhere, which would have been something he would say, the architect. So let me ask you this, Dad. In terms of showing up after somebody's crossed over, is it easier to do the closer to the event of crossing over? People have asked me that. Is it easier to show up And then what? Why?
There's something about 3 days about your, it's like your energy gets fully matriculated over there. So you have like you're in heaven or whatever people, it's not that you get held back or anything else, but your energy, they're showing me so many things. Like they're showing me how one of my past life regressions, how, I was trying to acclimate the kids in the frequency for, whatever.
Yeah.
All the stuff that they're showing, that's similar to which I've never seen. So when you cross over, you're over there, but your body takes a little bit of time. The energy takes a little bit of time. So you're able to have more like full apparitions and you're able to see each other. Like you always, okay, thank you. Like my grandfather said that my grandmother came back and said, I need my shoes to take with me.
I need my shoes.
And their suitcase.
All right, so Dad, I got a question for you. When Auntie, your wife, my mom, when she crossed over a number of years later, what was her experience? Because I had the impression that it took her a couple of days to acclimate.
She was in a concert playing the piano.
My mom being a concert pianist.
And she didn't want to stop playing.
So go ahead. Sorry.
But she was doing everything all at once. So it felt like she was playing the piano, but it also felt like she was just everywhere all at once. I guess they're trying to show me you can be, thank you. You can be everywhere all at once. So a part of your energy could be with one brother or sister or one, like it can bounce around. It's not like they're only at one place or at one person at a time. They can be in multiple places. And so when she was playing the piano, she was visiting other people before she left.
And just so people understand that, we have a certain portion of our conscious energy that we bring to a lifetime. And when it returns home, that you're connected to all of that conscious energy. And it could be in different places at the simultaneously. Also, you're outside of time. So literally, you can be in two places at the same time.
We're trying to make it work in our little brains.
Right. So, but Mom's fine. We've had chats with Mom before. Mom has come forward. I know she's still playing and
she's happy.
And do you guys hang out together or not?
Around your son. Hold on. We love scaring people together. Okay. He's like a home base for your mom. Like they always find each other.
And what's your impression of this class? You knew Luana quite well. You designed something for her house. You were close friends.
I love what you're doing. It's so important. It has already helped so many people. And not just here, over there.
Did you guys orchestrate Jennifer and I meeting up like this?
Your book did, but yes.
Well, that's interesting. I must admit.
I should thank Freddie for giving me 7 hours worth of dishes on Thanksgiving night.
Well, I must say, in all our relationship together, in the 6-some years that we've gotten to become good friends and known each other, I've tried to avoid, talking about my journey, my life, my family, because I know that this work helps other people. And once you start to say, well, what about Uncle Pete? What about Aunt Betty? Then it becomes about me or my journey. And I always felt like, well, you learn along the way. Certainly my mom has shown up. We've spoken to my dad, but I never asked him that question, who was there to greet you on the other side? And for him to say, Sam, we can interview Sam. We won't today, but we can interview Sam. And that's a whole nother kettle of fish. We did and I think he's in a chapter in Backstage Pass, the Flipside 3.
So Sam and Hira, right?
Sam and Hira, yeah, these two dogs. Who knew? Robert Town's dog Hira and Sam, who apparently is much wiser than we know him to be, or could have possibly thought him to be. Fascinating.
Shoot, I gotta go.
I know you do. You notice how I timed that just perfectly? Jennifer, we thank you for your gifts. We thank you for doing this work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's fun talking to my It was fun seeing my grandparents.
And yeah, and your dad, always, Jim. Thank you for coming in. And what are your grandparents' names?
Vera, and my grandfather's name is Philip.
Vera and Philip. Thanks, guys. You're always welcome in our class. Sam, we'll catch you on the flip side.